So, what should be our cold open?
Well, I think since it's She-Hulk, we can do like some sort of meta joke for our
Okay.
audience.
Kind of like in the finale when she busted out and we saw the writer's room.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
we don't do meta. Well, we do a meta a lot. But let's make this even more meta
Ooh, I
than
love
we
it. Keep
usually
going.
do it. So, here's the idea. We act like we are coming up with the cold open as
Okay.
we're doing the cold open, and everyone will think that we are just spitballing something, but really, this is the cold open.
Ah. So, we're in the cold open right now.
I know. If you look around, you will see the cold open. We're
I, s-
there.
I love it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, the show that's not on Reddit, the villain of both real life and television. I'm Matt,
I'm Brian.
and we are talking about She-Hulk, the TV show, the meta, fourth wall breaking, female Hulk, Disney Plus Marvel, etc., etc. That's enough adjectives. We're talking about that this week. Before we get into it, though, hey Brian,
Hey, what?
I watched a movie. Well, I didn't finish it. I'm in the middle of it. I
Okay.
started watching an old classic movie called Scarface. People have
Yes.
heard of it.
I've heard of it,
Um,
yes.
yeah, you've never seen it though.
I was trying to avoid saying that, but yes, I've never actually seen it.
I've got a couple things that I think would interest you.
Okay.
First of all, Al Pacino's character. There is no way that they did not base Pepe the Prawn off of Al Pacino in this movie. Like everything that the way he talks and like the way hey man, like the way he's talking, like the swagger confidence that he has, he's an R-rated version of Pepe the Prawn. 100%.
And Pepe is already probably the most R-rated Muppet the closest to R-rated Muppet you can get.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely on the light PG-13 side of it, but he's more adulty than some of the other Muppets.
Of course. There you go. We got it out of the way in the first 5 minutes.
Well, there's all never mind. And then by the way, I have trivia. Also, the his best friend, Al Pacino's friend in this, is played by the Don Eladio from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, the head of the cartel who orders Hector to shoot his Gus's best friend, partner, lover guy. And then at a certain point, when they go to Bolivia, they bump into the actor who plays Tio, Hector Salamanca. And so both of those guys are represented in it. I haven't gotten all the way through the movie, so there's a possibility that there are more Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad people in this movie. But they were part of a Hispanic drug cartel long before they were part of the Mexican drug cartel in Breaking Bad. So there you go. Background.
It's kind of cool when you see like different things have like a lot of these actors are from this thing are also in this thing. It's almost like an unofficial reunion kind of thing.
Yeah. Angie and I were just watching I guess this doesn't have anything to do with that. But we were just watching Friends last night, and it was the Thanksgiving episode where like they go into the past and she cuts off his toe and they
Oh.
come to the doctor and he's like, "You brought a carrot." You know who the actor is that's the doctor?
Um I know Bernard from Lost is the other doctor who delivers the twins. I don't remember who
Correct.
is this one.
This is Taylor from Gilmore Girls, with a clean shaven Taylor who's
Ah,
young. And Angie's like, I've seen this so many times. I've seen Gilmore Girls so many times, and I never noticed it
huh.
until last night.
I'll have to go look at that. One more. Do you know the Jerry moment in Friends? The Jerry Gergich moment?
No, I don't.
And it's such a Jerry Gergich moment. Remember, and when Chandler and Monica are looking for. By the way, we're going to talk about She-Hulk eventually, guys.
We'll get there.
When Chandler and Monica are looking to adopt, and they get mixed up and with the paperwork, and they someone thinks that they're a doctor and a preacher.
That's right.
The guy
Yep.
who mixed up their files is Jerry from Parks and Rec. Like that is such a Jerry move.
Yes, that's right. And in that whole thing, as they're looking for a kid, they also bump into Spy Kids kid as well.
Wait,
I
which one?
was
Oh yeah, that's
uh,
right. Who's married to Megan Trainor, who is all over TikTok right now with her new song and the dance.
ladies and gentlemen, I have been in a movie with Junie from Spy Kids. I was an extra in a movie that they filmed, an independent movie they filmed in Omaha. That sounds like it's a setup to a joke, but it's really true. I held the door for him as well, in between takes, and we had to go back in. I held the door. He's like, "Oh, thanks." I'm like, "You got it, Junie from Spy Kids."
Guess what? I am friends with a guy who once held the door open in the Judy from Spy Kids.
You're so cool,
I know.
man. Star power.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of power and stars, I guess, we're going to talk about She-Hulk. Now, I have been honest and I've been completely open about like how burnt out I have been from Disney and Star Wars shows and Marvel shows and just Disney stuff, period.
Mhm.
And so I had very low expectations going into She-Hulk. And actually, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
I think this might be a controversial opinion because I know some people very much do not like She-Hulk. I have the mentality of a little bit less than you of it's fine. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I didn't walk away from it like Loki or WandaVision where I'm like, that was really awesome. But I also didn't hate it like some people did. I had good moments.
What I liked about it is it was very comic booky in terms of it being like episodic. Instead of some of these other shows that we've got, it's this big story that they're building on for, I mean, it's only 6 episodes, but they're building on a story over 6 episodes, and everything that happens furthers the plot along. There is a plot that threads everything together, but it feels a lot more like if you pick up just a comic of She-Hulk, that's an episode. And then the next one is like the episode of the monster of the week, or they lampshade it where they're talking about a cameo of the week where, oh, this was in a Wong episode. This is a Daredevil episode. Yeah. And I thought that was very fitting for this show. And it was a change of pace from some of the other stuff where they felt like they had to do this 6 episode arc that you would get bored of by 3rd or 4th episode.
Yeah, I thought the actress was really good. I thought she was really good for the part. I mean, I believed her as both she. I mean, was it her? I mean, was it her face as She-Hulk or just as Jen?
I think it was still her face as She-Hulk. That she was the same motion capture. I mean, you lose yourself just as much when it like with Tim Roth as Abomination or
no, but
Mark
like
Ruffalo
with Mark Ruffalo, you can still clearly see Mark Ruffalo's face on Hulk.
As Smart Hulk. You don't see it as much as like when he was the first Hulk or like, you know, in Thor Ragnarok. But once he really like settled down, then you really see it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some controversy of this, because there has been controversy. Some people, they don't like it. Some people do like it. A couple things that people pointed out. Let's talk about the fourth wall breaking. Did you feel like it was over the top? Did you feel like it was fitting? How did you like that use?
I liked it just because I love a good fourth wall break. So I'm biased. I admit, it's not always in place. It's not always fitting for the thing, but I think it worked. I think if it's, as long as they do it right from the beginning, it's not like at the last minute, oh, now we're doing a fourth wall break. I think, well, where was this all along? I think I feel like it's either got to be there or not.
Especially because they really committed to it in the finale. Like they went all in on it. So I didn't expect it to go quite there. I saw memes about her being behind like the Marvel Studios, but I didn't know that was like Kevin. But I just saw like pictures of her there. So I'm like, oh, but I thought that was like an end of show stinger. Like your end credit scene is her behind Marvel Studios screen. So I didn't expect her to just bust through on the menu and enter in and everything that she did. But there were times during some of the fourth wall breaks, and I was like, okay, this is a tad heavy-handed, but at the same time, that's what fourth wall breaks are. Like, they go hand in hand.
Before she busted the continuity, at the end was like, okay, they're here now, and now Bruce is here. Why? Like I was kind of thinking the same thing she was thinking. Like, why is everybody here now?
Yeah. It's a smart way to end it, but the only critique I have of that ending then is like, okay, so what ends up being canon? You know, what actually did happen here? I know they scrapped, he turns into Hulk. So like, what was real in that for us to walk away with, you know?
Yeah.
I thought like I had thought that they were going to do like where Abomination was like the guy leading up the Reddit things. Like, well, I can see them needing to put Abomination back into the villain category so
Mhm.
that we can have him for other shows. And they do leave the door open for him to show up in other things, but it doesn't look like he's as much on the villainous side.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. It was interesting seeing him back from like, I mean, that's a deep cut back from like the Ed Norton days.
Well, now that the other guy that they had set up back in that movie, and they lampshaded, of course, they lampshaded. I just distracted myself. They lampshaded the whole like it was Edward Norton was like that was a different guy, literally. Like, all
Mhm.
right, ease up, guys.
It's kind of like
Um,
how Rhodey in Iron Man 2 was like, "It's me, I'm here, get used to it," or whatever he
yeah,
says. Like,
yeah. But the and I'm forgetting his name, but the guy who's going to turn into leader, the one who was helping him with his blood, and then like something was dripping in his brain or
oh
like
yeah,
in
yeah.
his head wound. They have confirmed that they're bringing him back. It's like of all the characters, it's like we didn't forget about him, which is like it's good, but holy crap, where has he been for all of this time? Then
Well, and like, do we know when are we gonna get the story of Hulk? Is there actually a Hulk movie coming, or because I haven't heard any like official release, but they mentioned save it for the movie. Is that just like a joke, or is there a Hulk movie coming?
they've talked about that for a while because when they had their Hulk movie, the distribution rights were actually with Universal, weirdly enough. That so like they could use it for Marvel Cinematic Universe and they could use Hulk, but to do a Hulk standalone movie, it's a similar thing with like Sony Pictures and Spider-Man. It was a similar type of agreement. So I don't know if that has lapsed yet or not, but I know that that's why for the longest time they didn't have just a straight Hulk movie.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I don't get it. I'm not a lawyer. She-Hulk is though. We had a number of cameos in this. People coming back. What did you feel like was some of your favorite characters they brought back, or which were one that you're like, nah, this is too much?
Well, obviously, I like to see Mark Ruffalo. I mean, he's the obvious one. I feel like you have to have him to set up.
Yep.
I like Mark Ruffalo way more better than Ed Norton in the role
Yep.
personally. And then I feel like Wong has just become like the standard. Like, okay, you need to make sure this is in the MCU. Let's put Wong in it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a good lampshade joke that they did because like they're aware of how much people are starting to love Wong.
Yes.
And Wong is a great character and
Hmm.
he needs some more stuff to do, but like
Hmm.
for for him just to pop up and the whole crap with Madison, this Madison girl, oh my gosh, I want to slap the crap out of her.
Hmm.
Eh, with a Y and it's not where you think. Like, dude, I'm gonna reach through my screen and just start smacking you left and right.
It made me think of that joke from How I Met Your Mother. It's like Robin with a Y. Oh, Yabin.
Nice. I did like too that they had characters like the Wrecking Crew or Leapfrog. There's like these deep cut
Mhm.
or Mr. Immortal. These deep cut
Yeah.
characters are like I don't really need them in a big Marvel movie, but it feels so superhero-y to have be like, "Oh, here I am for one episode and I'm out."
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of like Leapfrog, reminded me, of the end, with Matt Murdock, Daredevil coming in. Okay, this is where I'm confused because we've seen Kingpin in Hawkeye, and then we saw Daredevil both in Spider Man and now again in She Hulk. So I've heard that with the new Daredevil, is it a new continuity or is the old Daredevil in MCU or is it both? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's telling that they have been so silent about it,
Yeah.
that they haven't addressed it in any way, and I think that it's them like. Well, we need to figure out where we're going with the Daredevil show itself because they do have the Daredevil show greenlit, and it's going to be like 18 episodes. It's not just a 6 or 8 episode thing. It's going to be
Mhm.
like a full season of TV. And so I'm excited for it because Charlie Cox is really good in the role.
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio is really good in their roles, and Daredevil worked. And so I'm excited to see it. But you're absolutely right about the continuity. And I don't know if Kevin Feige himself even has an answer yet about it.
Yeah, I do think that Matt Murdock and Jen make a good couple, and I think it was good that they both connected both as She Hulk and as Jen,
Yeah.
which had been her issue. She had been like only ever been had any interest as She Hulk. Nobody wanted her as Jen.
Yeah. I it kind of leads me to one of my critiques of this, but it's not even just a critique of this. It's just in general media now. It just feels I liked, especially I liked the dating parade, especially when she had to use that
That
in
was a funny
court.
sequence. Yeah.
That was good. And so like I like that part of her, and she talks about in that meta thing where it's like these are the stakes of me, of like balancing my life together, my She-Hulk life and my whole and my Jen life and who I am, and that part of that is who she's dating. But there's also a part of this that it's just our modern media where it's like I feel like media right now is so horny. I
It
don't know,
is.
like I don't feel like it's ever been this horny. Like for them to talk about Captain America and his sex life in the first episode, that was a bit like, okay, I'm not about this. I'm not
Mhm.
here. And like I've always felt that with like James Bond. I'm like, okay, you can have him as a womanizer, but there are definitely times where it's like, okay, you have a mission. Why are you so like this woman that's in front of you is not the mission. Do what you're supposed to do. I don't care that it's like you're supposed to be suave and so the fact that it's turned now into like a thing to show empowerment on the other side of women
Mhm.
having it too. I'm like, well, now it's just everyone's horny. Can we just not as a society be as horny in media, please?
How many times did you just say horny in the last minute?
I don't know, but as my horny rant.
I mean, yeah,
Trademark. I'm trademarking that because no one's gonna want to use it.
I mean, you go back to, I mean, the '90s and even like the early 2000s. You had like two categories of shows. There were shows like Friends or How I Met Your Mother that could talk more about the sexual references and get more into that. And then you had your family shows like, Full House, Family Matters, George Lopez, like, which maybe they mentioned it here and it was completely G-rated, but it wasn't like the focus like it was. It was like there was
Yeah.
like the young adult cool kid shows, and then there was the family shows. And I feel like She-Hulk, I mean, in Marvel in general, it's kind of like a not a kids genre, but like more like a family genre. And I
Yeah.
think this show 10 years ago, 20 years ago would be way less tame in that area.
Yeah, that's what I was like when the MCU first started. I was nervous at first when like Tony Stark and the first like couple scenes they had two different things where it's like it shows him with a reporter or it shows him on the plane and then the pole
Mm-hmm.
comes up and all the stewardess are doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and both of those made me feel uncomfortable. And then they didn't do more of that, and then they just alluded to it later. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm fine with you alluding to it. It's just you don't you don't need that as part of the characterization, especially in something that I want to be family friendly. And for a
Yeah.
while, Marvel was after that. And I think they're like, well,
Yeah.
now we can be a little bit more than we were.
Well, in the beginning, like, Iron Man was a little more edgy, but then you
Yeah.
go to like Captain America or even Thor, and like it really wasn't that much because those
Yep.
guys aren't like the womanizers like Tony Stark is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that was my complaint, and like at the risk of sounding like the villains of She-Hulk, where it's like, well, it's not because she's a woman. Like I, I get that, and that is a good critique too, because there definitely is a group of people that are against. They don't want to see women, or maybe it's more that
Mhm.
I don't know if it's as black and white in that. Maybe it's that people just they want to see versions of themselves, and there's a lot of white males that maybe just want to see more white males on screen. I don't know. I like seeing. I like that we're at a spot where we're going to be able to have representation for everyone. And
We
so it
haven't
was,
had enough shows about white people over the years. I
we
mean,
haven't.
no.
It's only like three that I can think of. So it's good that we're moving in that direction, and for them to also, it's funny for them to make Reddit the bad guy. I will say that.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and even just on that, it's like it is interesting. Like again, going back, like it used to be there were the diversity was let's give like the black people their own shows with Fresh Prince or Family Matters or Smart Guy, and then let's give the Hispanics their own show with George Lopez. Like it was like everyone is represented separately, whereas now it's like they can just be in the same show together.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no problem with still like we're
Yeah.
going to have Black Panther this week. I mean, now when you listen to this episode, it has already been out. But we're going to have Black Panther this week. That's a great film. The first one was really good and
Yeah.
really a great way to show, hey, Hollywood, guess what? People will spend $1 billion to see an all black cast. That's fine. You can have minorities be bankable.
Mhm.
And so it was good to kind of set that precedent. So it's good to have that, but at the same time, it's good to have just intermixed diversity too.
Yeah, I think so too.
100%. So the action, I think, would be another thing that people
Yes.
would comment on, because this was light in action. It had
Mhm.
it, but it definitely wasn't like a normal Marvel movie.
Which
Or
I
Marvel.
like because like in general, when it comes to these movies, a lot of times I'll sometimes zone out a little bit on like fight scenes. Like I'm much more interested in plot than
Yeah.
the actions, and like especially I mean, unless it's a really good fight, like the fight in Endgame. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of plot stuff happening. That's more interesting. Where if it's just like, all right, the villain and the good guy, they're gonna fight for a while. Of course they are. They have to do that in every movie. Where
Mhm.
some people are like, yeah, let's get to the action. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about Cobra Kai a couple weeks ago, and Cobra
Yeah.
Kai is in that where it's like there are some cool fight choreography that they do,
Yeah.
but right now it's at a point of like, oh, they're fighting. Okay, well let me grab some popcorn. Let me look at my phone right now. And Miss Marvel was one more recently that was like, I like the creative side of fight scenes where they're running through the school and they have like they're being
Yeah.
chased by those guys. That was a creative way to do a fight scene there.
I never ended up watching Miss Marvel.
Oh, so they do this thing where they have these teenagers that pretty much home alone a school as they're being chased by these bad guys. And that was a unique way. And then they had like one where it's like this kitchen fight scene that actually was a really good one too. And then the rest of the fight scenes in it were like, I barely remember them. And so this one, I thought the Daredevil and She-Hulk fight scene was really good. And I thought that She-Hulk fighting the demon bats with Wong as they're kind of going back and forth was good. And everything else, like, I guess Titania and her had some fight scenes, and those were like, oh, you're just fighting. Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I couldn't get into Titania because all I could see was Tahani from The Good Place.
Yeah.
Sometimes it ruins it for you.
And you're like, oh, you have an American accent. No, you don't. Come on. Just it would be fine for you to be British. You can be posh. This is a posh type character. Be British. That's fine.
Yeah. Is she British in real life?
I believe so. I feel pretty certain because I've seen her on the Truth Index show. Okay. She hosted that, and I think she was speaking with a British accent on it.
I think it's easier for British people to do American accents than vice versa.
Maybe.
I could be wrong, but I'm terrible at doing any kind of accent. So you're getting the true me. I'm not putting on an accent.
I am great at accents, all of them, and I never go from one accent to another while I'm talking. Never. Nope.
This whole time, Matt's Australian.
And That's
he's
true.
Been putting on. Okay, this actually did happen. Okay, this sounds like I made it up. For like maybe like 2014, 2015, I was really starting to get into a certain podcast that's hosted by two Australians, and so I would notice that like whenever I would talk about the topic they do the podcast on, I would somehow slip into like a few words sounding Australian just from like hearing it constantly in my head. Like that link went in my brain for a little bit.
Nice. Then you just need to watch Nonstop Bluey and then you're good.
I've heard that, I've heard from multiple sources of people with little kids that Bluey is good, and they've suggested we do a Bluey podcast.
I would do it.
We'd have to get another host, otherwise a guest host. Otherwise, I would have to watch some Bluey.
You know what?
What?
We're doing that. Okay. So, guys, we're gonna talk about this again at the end, but we're just gonna take the moment right here because we're trading this. So next week, I think it's next week, we're doing one of those episodes where we trade episodes with the other person. And I had a TV episode I was gonna give to Brian. I'm changing it. Brian, you're gonna watch Unicourse from Bluey. It's in season 3. I don't remember exactly what episode it is, but it's Unicourse. And you will watch that. We will talk about Bluey next week because why the heck not?
Okay, well, you know what? What pairs best with Bluey? Supernatural.
What like it's a fine wine. Sir, what pairs well with this Bluey? Oh, Supernatural. Yes, please.
I was messaging Matt like some different shows. I'm like, have you? Because I obviously want to be a show he hasn't seen. I'm like, have you seen this show? Have you seen this show? And then I'm like, wait, didn't you say that you haven't ever seen Supernatural? And Matt's like, oh crap. So yes, I am going to give Matt the season 2 finale, a 2-part season 2 finale called All Hell Breaks Loose. And it wraps up one of the original overarching storylines. And like this could have been the series finale. I think they could have done that, but instead they went on for another 13 years.
It might be the series finale for me.
My guess is it will be. I don't see My guess is if you went this long without getting into Supernatural, you're probably not going to get into it.
To be fair, I went for a long time without getting into Doctor Who, and I've started watching Doctor Who right now.
Okay.
So, but then again, I started watching so many. I've started watching IT Crowd. I've started watching Westworld. I've started watching The Wire. I got a lot that I'm watching.
You finally started watching the IT Crowd.
I did. Yep. I'm only like 2 episodes in. I watch things in just a ridiculous way that would probably drive a lot of other people crazy. But
probably. So if you want to watch Bluey or Supernatural, then tune in next week. We'll be giving our very different renditions of what we see.
And back to She-Hulk. What would
Yes.
you say was your favorite episode of She-Hulk?
I would say the finale, just because of, like I said, I'm a huge nerd for all the wall breaking stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have said the one with the dating montage. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I would say probably for me, like as great of a character as Jen Walters is, I think they knew it going into it that people also really like to see supporting cast from other Marvel characters.
Mhm.
So I really liked episodes with Daredevil, and I really like episodes with Wong. And it would probably be the magic one with Wong, where Wong is suing the fake magician guy.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I think it was just their dynamic was fun. Wong's a good character.
Yeah, it just makes me. I want to go back and actually fully rewatch the Daredevil because I never watched it all the way. I watched a handful of episodes with my son when he was watching it, but I haven't seen the whole thing through. And I will admit I got a little distracted because like that's Fulton from Mighty Ducks, but he's
he's good in it. The season 3 though with Bullseye is the best to me. I think Bullseye was a good villain.
Okay, I'll take your word on that.
Yeah.
Not good enough to make him on your villain list.
No, but I like he's a good villain in the comic books. But it's like they did good things with him, but they definitely could have done more. He was more of a pawn of Kingpin, but it's like if they would have done more Daredevil, he could have easily stepped forward into a bigger role instead of being Kingpin's pawn, of him being the source of frustration.
Yeah.
So,
and She-Hulk was only a one season, right?
As of now, it is.
So the only one that's confirmed to get a second season, is it only Loki, or was there another one that's getting another season?
Loki's the only one so far that has been confirmed. Yeah.
Okay.
WandaVision got a second season in terms of the movie Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said this before. We still got to catch up at some point with White Vision, who's out there somewhere. But I mean, there's so many characters from these different shows and movies. I mean, I'm sure they have it categorized, but I'm like, we have to catch up with this. We have to catch up with Hulk. We have to find out what Nick Fury was doing. Like, there's so many different loose ends they have to tie up.
Yeah. And that was my issue with Phase 4 is that they're like, okay, now that Endgame's done, we're going to just throw the lid open on things. And there wasn't really any one arc, I thought for a while it was going to be multiversal stuff, and that was going to be the big push of season 4 or Phase 4, and it wasn't. It had some multiverse stuff in it, but it really was like just more alluding to it constantly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just has kind of been wandering around aimlessly, but this was good, where it was this nice self-contained story that still had some stuff going on that could affect the wider MCU.
Yeah, that's true.
Anything else that you want to add before we jump into trivia?
Nothing that I can think of. No.
We did it. We got a short episode. So if you guys are like, I'm ready to go on my way, there you go. Brian, is it sexist that one of our shorter episodes is talking about a female-led show?
Maybe, but we're talking about a very tall woman. Does that make up for it?
I would like to make a huge complaint about the tallest woman in the MCU. That's an Office reference for those who didn't get it. Look at me mansplaining.
Which transitions into our trivia from last week, which was
it does
concluding our series of episodes about The Office. So if you're listening to this, that means they're all available. You can go listen to us talk about all the seasons of The Office with Paul and Dan and Angie and Trisha and Jeff and Mike and Brandon and Andrew and Matt and I
and us. And me, I helped. So last week when we were talking about the final seasons, Andrew asked about the final episode when Ryan is at the wedding. He has his own baby with him, and he asked what was Ryan's baby allergic to that Ryan then manipulated to get with Kelly, and that was strawberries. We said it together. No one can tell us that we didn't. So this week, my question is, mocking that we have talked about Muppets already, and in She-Hulk, Jen at one point is watching the Muppets, and she's watching Miss Piggy Hulk out in open bars. What scene is that from?
Gotcha. This makes sense because Matt told me I have trivia. I don't know the answer, but I know you do. I'm like, what? But yeah, I absolutely know what that is. I'm
sure. No, go ahead.
The first time I was watching it, I was in the kitchen making dinner, and Charlie said like, "Oh, Miss Piggy she's watching Miss Piggy bust out of jail," and I immediately said, "Oh yes, it's from the answer to the trivia." So yes.
Ah, look at that. Mm-hmm. So now you guys can guess what Muppets is that from. Mm-hmm. That's your hint, is that it's Muppet related.
Oh, the Miss Piggy wasn't enough.
You don't know. People are real dumb. We don't know things.
We don't know things.
We don't know nothing.
So as we said, next week we're going to talk about Bluey and Supernatural as a reminder.
What a great combination. And then after that, it's Thanksgiving. We are going to have episode that week, and we're going to be talking about if we had 3 chefs from TV that were making us a dinner, who would we want making us our dinner? And they would have the entrees, the appetizers. I kept wanting to say Applebee's. They would have the Applebee's appetizers and the dessert. So which 3 chefs would be in charge of those 3 things? And we'll talk about that in 2 weeks on Thanksgiving.
All right.
Until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.